Right, we're live now.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everyone to this joint staff consultative committee being conducted virtually with members, officers and representatives. As with previous meetings, I welcome comments and discussions throughout this meeting, everyone attending. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you. Can I confirm the following members and officers are in attendance and can hear us and that we can hear them? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Yes.
Councillor Claire Strong.
Yes, good morning.
Councillor Ona Cameron.
Yes, good morning.
And Keith Fitzpatrick Matthews.
Present, yes.
Lewis Franklin, are you online yet, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm all sorted now, thank you.
Brilliant timing. Ian Cooper.
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Rebecca Webb.
Good morning, everyone.
And Helen Violet.
Yes, good morning.
Brilliant. Are there any other members or officers in attendance that haven't called out? I don't think there are at the moment. You can see. Okay. Members may request to speak using the raised hand function, and the same function will be used to vote. The chair will notify you when it's your turn to speak. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? I will now hand over to the chair.
Thank you very much. Apologies for absence. We have received apologies from Debbie Eland, Dee Levitt, Christina Core, Tieran Strachan and Councillor Val Bryant. Are there any other apologies? No. Minutes of the 12th of June 2024. I'd like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the committee held on the 12th of June 2024. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Strong. Any comments on the minutes?
No.
Wonderful. Okay. We will approve that by consensus. Anybody? No. So that's all approved. Thank you very much. Chair's announcements. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available on mod.gov or the North Herts Council YouTube page. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. A detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the Chair's announcements on the agenda. So we'll move along to item number 4, which is the Staff Consultation Forum. Ian Cooper to present, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Dan,
Hello, Ruth.
can I just say that a couple of us were on Teams and there's someone else trying to come back in?
Not a problem, thank you. Okay. May I ask?
You have 4 months worth of minutes.
Okay.
Ready to go, Chair? Thank you. You have 4 months worth of minutes in front of you. Just the way timing works, sometimes you get 4, sometimes you get 2. Sort of various themes covered in there. Obviously, I won't dwell on the HR items. We'll cover those in the information note coming up. But just to pick out a couple of things out of there. In there, there's a bit around SCF volunteers. We're always looking for more volunteers to join the forum, and we've had some success recently with some new ones coming along board, which is great. And also confirming in there that the SCF volunteers are there to be the interaction between that and the wider officer group. So have them to talk to other officers around what's going on and stuff coming up on the SCF, and also take feedback. And that's really important in terms of the way the forum operates. Also in there, just to note that we, with the elections in July, we did the big call out for staff volunteers, and then did that SCF as well. And then obviously after that, we thanked all those that did volunteer and to help out with the elections. Obviously, a few actually restructured in there as well, and then the usual kind of topics around building services and green updates and various things. Obviously, quite a lot of detail, so I have to take any questions on what's in there.
Wonderful. Are there any comments or questions to Ian Cooper? Ruth.
Are you going to cover pay award later?
Yes, we'll cover that in the HR
Okay,
update.
okay, I won't ask the question then.
Question from me. The standing desks, are those ones that go up and down, or are they always up?
I think they're mostly always up. I can't remember exactly if they go up and down. We certainly have got ones that just sort of stay up most all the time. We've got a few of them dotted around the building.
Yeah, I was just curious because you know, I've seen it in operation, but the ones that we had in the office were ones that you could move. So if somebody wanted to stand, they could, and then if they would alternate, but it also gives much more flexibility.
I don't know if Lewis knows more than I do. He might know more of that, exactly how they
Oh,
work.
I can tell you the one on the ground floor in CSC and the one on the 4th and 5th definitely go up and down. I
Okay.
don't know about any others on the other floors.
I happen to know the one on the first floor, at least one of the ones on the first floor goes up and down. So I would assume then by the numbers they all do. But Councillor Strong, I will find out for you.
Well, no, it's just that, you know, there was a comment in them about wanting more, and I just thought, well, it's quite an easy one to fix, isn't it?
Yeah, we have got plans for at least 2 more to go in, so there'll be more of them. And then we'll keep an eye on usage. We can track usage through the desk booking system and see if how well they're being used. Obviously, they do come at a cost compared to a normal desk, but we obviously want to make staff happy and comfortable at work.
For some people, it's sitting all day. It's, you know, it's good if you can, you know, alternate your work position. Health and safety.
And being an inclusive council, which is what we are. Any other questions or comments? No. In that case, this is again approved by consensus. Anybody? No, that's approved. Information note, HR update. Rebecca Webb to present, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll run through the paper, starting with 3.2, which is our recruitment update. This looks different to last time because it shows our new key performance indicator, which is the number of vacancies filled first time. And you'll see at the end of the table, right-hand side, the target and the achievement for this quarter. It shows the comparison for Q1 2024 versus Q1 last year, 2023. There are a lower number of vacancies this year, which you can see, and that means the percentage filled first time is lower. In this period, we had 3 unfilled posts. So that was the Senior Environmental Health Officer, the IT Help Desk Support Officer, and the Information Officer. I've talked about it before, but we continue to work with recruiting managers to review posts that we've had difficulty filling. And in 2 of these cases, we've amended the roles to career graded posts. And that means that we can bring in somebody at a more junior level and then provide training and development for them to grow into the role. You may have heard about the national recruitment campaign for local government, and that's covered in 3.3, and it launches in November. It's called Make a Difference, and it aims to increase awareness of the variety of careers in local government, the positive impact we have on our communities, and the benefits of working for local government. Councils have been asked to support the campaign by using assets, so posters and videos and images from a toolkit that we're going to be provided with on websites, on social media, and in other forms of advertising. We do intend on supporting this campaign, and the plan is that we will use the toolkit to enhance our own recruitment branding. So we will run it alongside what we're already doing. 3.4 shows our turnover rate, and that's remained below 9% since April this year. And 3.5 provides an update on the national pay bargaining process. So I covered this in detail last time, although I'm happy to ask questions at the end. The unions are balloting for industrial action, and it's expected that we will understand the result of those ballots at some point during October. 3.6 covers apprentices. We have 8 in post, and we are currently recruiting. At the previous meeting, there was a request for some more details on the success of the scheme, and I always talk about how well it's going. It's been running since 2013, and we always receive a high number of applications for apprentice vacancies. Since 2013, we've recruited 81 apprentices. 35 of those apprentices have stayed with the council after completing their apprenticeship. And of those 35, we still have 19 of them employed with us. So I think you'll agree that's a really good, successful scheme. We're taking part in the National Graduate Scheme for Local Government. We've had 2 graduates start with this week, and they're on a 2-year contract. They'll each have 4 rotations of 6 months, so they'll be working in different service areas during their contract with us. And 3.8 provides an update on some of the activity relating to learning and development. We launched our new learning management system in July, and we use this to provide our mandatory e-learning modules, but the system itself has a variety of other content and bite-sized learning available as well. We've had positive feedback so far, and we have a really good mandatory training uptake rate so far. The digital team have launched a digital and data academy, and this has the aim of equipping staff with the skills to develop their careers and create efficiencies through new technology and really increase confidence with working with data. We have 20 employees who've signed up to courses as part of that scheme at different levels with different content to suit their role at the council. 3.9 is an update on our inclusion group. The inclusion group meeting took place during National Inclusion Week back in September, and there were discussions about the inclusion-based staff survey results as well as neurodiversity in the workplace. Along with the inclusion group, we've marked National Inclusion Week by providing a variety of resources to staff to further raise awareness on equalities, diversity and inclusion. So this included launching our updated e-learning module on EDI. We ran a webinar on how to be an inclusive colleague, and that's available. The recording is available for staff to watch at a later date. And we launched some posters about microaggressions alongside a video explaining what a microaggression is and the impact that it might have. Employees were given the opportunity to review all this information as part of our personal development morning in that week as well. And then 3.10 is our usual update on absence. So we have seen the typical reduction in short-term absence over the summer period, but an increase in COVID absences. And you'll see there's an increase there in the long-term absence, which we continue to support line managers and the individuals. And cases include issues around chronic health conditions and mental health conditions. And then finally, 3.11 covers an update on the staff survey. And I'm going to hand over to Ian to talk you through that.
Thank you. So far, we've obviously done lots of work on analysing results from the staff survey. We've done 2 sessions feeding back to staff at staff briefings in June and September. We've also had a discussion with the senior management group as well in September too. So far, we've looked at both questions where we feel that there's consistency in terms of results or that across the whole of the organisation, or we feel that generally the question applies to the whole organisation. We've also looked at areas where there's specific comments or specific slight trends for some of the more sort of focused areas, and therefore looking at how we can support managers in looking at the results for those and becoming up with sort of more specific action plans. But the ultimate aim is that we will have an action plan that will bring all that together, which we can share with staff. We're planning probably in December or January. And that will kind of cover both the general actions across the whole of the organisation, but also kind of a bit about the the more specific actions in certain areas, although generally want to make sure those more focused actions are focused and stay that way. So picking up some of the stuff we've discussed with staff so far, whilst low levels, we did have 2% of the respondents who felt they weren't safe at work, and also 15% who felt that the organisation didn't care about their well-being. Obviously, they're low, but we don't want those numbers to be that high. That's too high still. So HR, we've done some work around, obviously, serve as anonymous, but trying to find out where those issues around not feeling safe have come from, and targeting those individuals, targeting that area directly where we can, but also reminded staff that if you don't feel safe, if you've got any concerns about us not caring about your well-being, talk to your manager. If you can't talk to them, talk to their manager. And if you clearly can't talk to them either, then talk to HR help, either anonymously, either through the email or phone up. And the idea just being, just get in touch with us and we'll try and address it, because those numbers, whilst low, are too high. We always have a bit of a theme, unfortunately, about leadership team and being accessible. So we've been trying to do some work, been through the staff briefings about what we can do about that, and trying to get a bit more behind that as to what that means for people, because I don't think there's a one size fits all in that respect. Some of the feedback so far has been that actually it's about being virtually available as well as physically available. And some of that's around, as we move towards using things like our intranet for discussions around topics, around actually making sure leadership team do respond to those discussions and sort of come across as sort of in the phrase, more human. So hopefully we're trying to do that. On that theme, we are continuing to develop the internet as a way of a communication tool. It does allow much more interaction in the old version, and we're making use of that, because there was some feedback around staff not always being aware of what's going on, and trying to sort of work with that to make that both there and more accessible, so people are more likely to read it. Lots of positives in there, I think, around our inclusion group and the work we do on inclusion. So just continue to want to make use of that. On learning development, I think fairly positive in terms of responses there, in terms of what we provide and how we provide it. But I think a general theme across that question and others around having time to access it. So obviously work to do to kind of free up time for people both to feel less pressured, feel less stressed, but also have time to take part in learning development. Overall, I reiterate the stat, around 90% of people would recommend that North Hart's a place to work, which is really positive. And then sort of delving a bit more into some more detail, at the September meeting, we sort of focused a bit more on flexible working, and there's some areas where people are making use of flexible working really well and seeing the benefits of that. And it's around sharing that, but also being realistic about areas where it doesn't work quite so well. So where you've got people in customer services or in care line at the museum, obviously they have less flexibility in some of the other staff, and it's around making sure that we appreciate that, but also let the staff that can take advantage of it take advantage in a sort of constructive way to support both well-being and productivity. So continue to sort of do examples of that where we can kind of help people on that journey. So far, we have sort of generally got feedback through those staff briefings in SMG. At the last staff briefing, to reiterate that feedback via HR, either email or talking to HR team, was also very welcomed. Appreciate not everyone in the staff briefing wants to sort of pipe up and give us their views in that forum. So looking for all the feedback we can get, as well as that kind of more focused team-based feedback where we think there is some value in that. And then, yeah, putting all that together such that we can get all those messages back to staff, as I say, in December or January, have that action plan, and then monitor against that action plan going forward, because we want to take action to address this and make it a better place to work.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I'm guessing I'm going to have a few questions on this one. This HR update isn't information only. So, Councillor Brown.
Couple of questions. Hopefully they'll be relatively easy to answer. The turnover rates, Rebecca, you say they're below 9%. How does that compare with the national average for local government?
It's reasonable. I can get that information and compare it to where we've been at over the last couple of years. So you can see we did have a spike as we came out of COVID, but now we're back down, and we tend to sit around this mark. And we, of course, will always see some turnover. It's not a negative thing, but yes, I can get the data to you.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think a fair comparison would be other local a national average for local government, because obviously the private sector is going to be completely different. But I think it'd be nice to know where we sit. That would be really helpful. Thank you. The other thing I just wanted to ask is around mental health. Obviously, mental health accounts for a lot of the long-term absences. I understand we have mental health first aiders, because obviously prevention is a lot better than having people off sick. Do we know how that scheme's going, how many people use it, whether people talk to them, and whether it really does prevent mental health crisis and people leaving the workplace?
It's the kind of thing that isn't.
Do you want me to jump in and answer this one?
Go on then, Helen. Yeah, absolutely.
So we support our mental health first aiders as well, because obviously their mental health is really important. So they do meet often. They are contacted. We don't ask for any details other than are staff contacting you? So yes, the network is used, and we signpost to resources that are available whilst still supporting our mental health first aiders. But that is as much information as we collect from our mental health first aiders. Have you been contacted? Unless they need HR to intervene at any point. But it's our input is very light touch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense, because you want people to have confidence that the what they say is not going to be, the fact that they've approached mental health aid is not going to get back to their line manager or whatever. That's really important. I was thinking, as you've said, more generally, are people aware of them? Do they know they can go to them? Is it being used? But it sounds like it is. So because I think obviously if we can prevent a crisis situation and people leaving the workplace, that's a lot better than having to deal with it when they've already developed a serious mental health condition and had to leave work. So it's much harder for the individual and the organisation. So that sounds really good. How many mental health first aiders do we have in total? Is it around 20 or something?
It's not that many now. I think it's around 14, but I'll double check.
Yeah. And are all new staff are all informed about the availability of those people? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. Thanks very much.
If I can just add quickly, sorry, Councillor Allen, that the preventative piece around mental health is key. You're absolutely right, Councillor Brown. We've got an employee assistance programme as well, and that can be used in crisis, but there's a lot around well-being and looking after your own mental health. We use the hub. Ian spoke about the hub earlier. We use the hub to put out information, signposting external support as well. And we have occupational health. So occupational health isn't just a tool that we use when somebody is off sick. It can be used before that. So yes, there's a whole load of support mechanisms in place for mental health and supporting positive mental health.
Thank you. Rebecca, may I ask that when you forward that information with national comparison to Councillor Brown, you forward it to all of us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Councillor Strong, you were next.
Yes, just backing up on the recognising mental health. Are all employees, in the organisation taught a little bit about how to recognise signs in their fellow their fellow co-workers and that as well, to really sort of, I can't remember when some of these programmes were introduced. Is that something that is openly discussed? How to do you recognise these signs in your fellow co-workers? Just again, because as you say, recognising and helping in mental health is so important. But anyway, that actually wasn't the question. I'm interested, then I can ask my next question.
Yes, so we have had previous mental health e-learning that has now been updated with our new learning management system. So there are bite-sized sessions on there available for staff. And then we have articles around spotting the signs and things like that. So yes, it's talked about more generally. We could always do more, but there's a lot of stuff that we want to raise awareness of, including this. Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah, what I wanted to actually talk about was the staff survey and a couple of things that Ian said. You talked about refining the results and coming up with an action plan and sharing that, which is, I think, great across the organisation. But you also talked about there being 2% of employees feeling not safe, and I was just, when you say not safe, can you define not safe? And they're not safe because they feel the job or the task they're asked being done, or is it things like interactions with the public?
It was just a question of survey. Do you feel safe at work? I don't know, Rebecca, if we can share any more details than that in terms of the work we've done since then to try and look into it in more detail, or that's getting too personal.
Yeah, so there were some examples given within the survey, so we've been able to pick up on those and take some positive action around that. But safe could mean a number of things. We appreciate that. The question itself included some signposting, so if anybody is having difficulty or not feeling safe, these are the places you can contact, and that included HR. The other thing that wasn't included here is the time scale. So it may be that these are historical things that have made somebody not feel safe. But yes, we've dug into the things where there were specific examples and somebody gave their contact details, but it was an anonymous survey. So we have to encourage people to come forward and absolutely remind them and tell that we will always pick this up and help them and support them and deal with issues. But it was an anonymous survey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Oh, thank you. My original question wasn't on mental health either, but it occurs to me, and I'm sure all of you already know this, that there must be some members of staff who are more in a public-facing situation where they're having to deal with very angry members of the public. And I was just imagining, you know, the change to the bins or the flooding, etc. So is there anything proactive where these people are, you know, proactively looked after?
Support for those people will come via their line manager, who will be fully aware of the environment that they work in and the problems that they might come up against. We don't have an ongoing scheme of training and development in that arena, but when we think that there needs to be a refresher, or if an issue arises, we would absolutely look into some kind of bespoke training or development. In cases where there have been situations within a team where support is needed from a mental health perspective, if they're dealing with something particularly difficult as a team, we are able to refer to our employee assistance programme and get them support as a team through that. And we have done things in the past to provide that kind of team-based support, as well as that for individuals.
Right, thank you. The original question I wanted to ask was based on your report on recruitment and vacancies. And it's a sort of a tangent really, but are we absolutely certain that when someone leaves and there's a slight gap, or someone else takes over the post, that members of the residents' problem, which might have been flagged up in advance, that is you know, carried out, that someone is aware that the handover is absolutely smooth, and that cases don't get lost in the process?
Yes, so there will be, when somebody leaves the line, there's normally a notice period, and that notice period is really key for the service manager and the line manager to ensure that there is a handover. And that's a standard part of dealing with leavers within the team and recruiting. And it might be that there's a gap in the middle, and I've seen examples where things are logged manually, but of course there'll be some teams who will have systems that log this information as well, and that will be used as part of that handover.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, Ian, you had your hand up. Do you?
I was just going to add to the answer the first question, that where we have kind of specific incidents that may affect staff, that we have had, I think every time either a manager or HR have got involved and sort of done a ring round of people and made sure they're feeling okay after that. We've had a few things happened, some fairly recently, where we kind of felt the need to kind of just make sure that people in that moment have had that support, obviously emphasising the EAP, but also just being there someone they could talk to.
Thanks. It's just, I'm just aware really from notices I see in my doctor's surgery places, you know, that members of the public seem to not have the sort of respect perhaps that they would have had 20 years ago. And it's really worrying for those people, I think. Thanks.
Councillor Brown.
Just on what Rona was saying about casework in particular, possibly being lost where a member of staff leaves. For casework, I would really encourage councillors to use the councillor portal, because if you use the councillor portal, it certainly won't get lost, because it's got a trail and it goes to the right person. So that really helps.
I definitely agree with that. I think mainly the concern was actually about officers leaving and not having the information passed along.
Yeah, no. Thank you.
Louis?
Just on the councillor portal, if an officer leaves, their case will still be there and it'll be picked up by another officer. So if it is logged through the portal, then that will still, it will start showing up red once it's gone past a certain date, and it'll be picked up by the manager of the team and assigned to a new person. But my other point was with regards to the respect to service, people servicing members of the public. There was a really good piece that Chris sent out yesterday, Chris Jeffrey, Customer Services Manager, with regard to this, which was service with respect. And there was some articles on BBC. So I think he sent out to the councillors as well. It was a really good and interesting read. So I was just going to highlight that. That was all.
Cheers. Okay. So this was just for discussion. There's no vote required. I would like to thank everybody for involving in that, and particularly Rebecca for presenting. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, which is the discussion paper on coaching. Helen Violet to present, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just briefly talk through the paper. So to start, I'll give a brief description of coaching and mentoring. They are both development techniques. They use one-to-one discussions to develop an individual's skills, knowledge, or enhance their performance in the workplace. Mentoring is similar to training, and it is putting information and ideas into a person. So it's increasing their knowledge. A mentor tends to offer more technical, experiential advice and has skills and experience that the individual is looking to develop themselves. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's a more senior colleague. It's just someone with more experience in that particular area. It can be an informal arrangement, one-to-one meetings with a line manager, or a more formal arrangement such as the reverse mentoring scheme that we had recently. Coaching, in contrast, is pulling out skills, knowledge, and thinking from the individual being coached. It provides a space for someone to help to progress the work goals. Could be progression in their role, building confidence, managing or improving relationships, or any other aspect that an individual feels they need development on. Whatever the goal, a coach will work with an individual in a non-judgmental way and explore options. They'll look at current perspective, and they give an individual space to think about and explore actions that they could possibly take. A coach does not tell you what to do, but it supports an individual in their own thinking and draws out information from themselves. Here at North Hearts, we've got a well-established internal coaching network. We've had trained coaches in place for over 10 years. They offer a high standard of coaching, and they are all ILM qualified, and they take part in regular supervision. So coaching supervision is where coaches get together and talk about any people that they've been coaching while still remaining completely confidential, but any sticking points, what went well, what they could have done better. So that happens often. And they also have other continual professional development to make sure that they have retain their high level of understanding. Coaching is a key leadership and management tool used by lots of organisations. It supports and improves both individual and organisational performance. And as I say, here at North Hearts, it's been used for several years as an alternative to more traditional methods of training, to support staff through organisational change and as a development tool, as an alternative, but not as a replacement. There are some examples of situations where coaching can be used, listed in the paper. As I say, developing skills, developing a more strategic perspective, handling conflict situations early on, allowing people to talk issues through. In a constantly changing environment, there are demands on learning and development. So our coaches and mentors are a really cost-effective development tool. We use our internal coaching network to develop the coaching skills of managers, which not only allows them to have coaching conversations with their team, but also coaching conversations with themselves, so they can self-coach in certain situations, which enhances performance again. Whilst coaching is well established within the council, there is always more that we can do in terms of people taking up the opportunity. Our in-house coaching network are working hard to continue to raise the profile of coaching and to continue to promote its benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Happy
Do
to
we
take
have any
any questions?
No, we don't appear to have. Councillor Strong.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely, I'm a great believer in coaching in organisations. What's one question? And he's not here, but do our senior leadership team still have access to outside coaching?
Yeah, we ensure that anybody who has access, who requires access to coaching, will have access to coaching.
I mean, I can remember back to the days of Andrea Hill, and she was a great believer because she had her very own coach who was helping her to, if you like, put in her life career. But yes, thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, our senior leadership team are great supporters of coaching.
Excellent, thank you. Okay. And if there are no further questions, this is again approved by member consensus, and it is approved. Future discussion topics. Do we have any ideas for future discussion topics? I have a possible suggestion, but might be told it's not suitable. So let's see. A future discussion topic: the use of our council building compared to the number of people actually working in it. So looking at the number of people that are using the hot desking and using the council building, and whether or not we need the number of floors that we have. Is that something that would be suitable to discuss? Ian Cooper.
My response would be probably not the right forum, but that's obviously up to you members. I would say here is a chance to focus on particular HR issues. Obviously, we can look at the benefits of home versus office working here, but actually the pure numbers and the results of that, I think, is a better forum to discuss than here, where we've got kind of HR professionals that can support us. And
in that case, I'll take this outside the meeting, and Ian, I'll have a chat with you about that, about where the right place would be. Thank you. And that's why it's always worth asking, because it's easy to be told no. Councillor Cameron.
Oh, thanks. I was going to bring this up under Rebecca's report, but actually I'm not sure if it's but would people be interested in something that came out of the section on the trade union dispute? Was one of the things that the trade unions wanted, obviously nationally, was a survey on rates of, not just rates of pay, but equal pay, men and women, and diversity. So I was wondering, actually, have we ever done that for ourselves, just in North East Herts? And would it be something that we could do to find out exactly what the situation is with equal pay between men and women, mostly in North East Herts?
North Herts, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Rebecca.
Thank you. We carry out an equal pay review regularly, so every 3 years or so. We haven't done one this year. It's likely that we will pick that piece of work up next year in 2025. So yes, we will be doing that work. It's really an important piece of work to do, but it won't be in 2024. It will be next year. And absolutely happy to bring that once we've done it to discuss here.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing that in 2025. Thank you. Councillor Strong.
Yeah, I was just going to add on that. If I'm right, the percentage of our employee base is tipped towards females anyway.
I believe you're right.
HR would tell me the correct figure.
Yeah,
but it
no,
is,
that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
I can't remember the percentages, but it is. So, and I think over the years, I think equal pay. I've never been aware that I've thought that there was an issue with it within our organisation. I think that's something we should be very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. The last equal pay report in 2021 didn't bring up any equal pay concerns, and it's about 2/3 female, our workforce profile. There will be information on the gender pay gap, and we can bring that, but I would bring that to this forum anyway once we have an action plan around the data for 2024. There is, if I can just add, Councillor Allen, there's a list of suggestions on discussion papers, if that might help. It was included in the pack, I believe.
I do not have that pack open at the moment. I have opened my chair's notes that I'm going through. Councillor Strong.
Yes, well, coming back to your original question, which was what for future meetings, I mean, is there anything more from the staff survey that we would like as a committee like to pick up on once we've seen the action? Will we get to see the action plan? And would there be anything out of that that would be of interest to us? That's one for Ian, I suppose.
yes, happy to share the action plan once we've kind of gone through it with staff. I think they're probably the primary audience. I want to share it with them first. They're happy to share that. Just try and remember how the timing is going to work. I think it might be a bit too soon at the next meeting, but certainly the one after, we will happily kind of discuss that again in terms of staff survey results.
Councillor Brown.
I was just looking at those future topics and just wondering if officers or anybody on this discussion thinks that any of them were particularly most suitable to discuss at the next meeting. So that was one thing. And for your notes, Daniel, they are employment law, managing short-term absence, flexible working, social media for recruitment, succession planning and development, microaggressions and unconscious bias in the workplace, and neurodiversity in the workplace. And I wonder if we should add to that list mental health, have given the discussion this morning, and what we do for mental health and the wide variety of, and just have an open discussion about what's available for staff, how we can encourage them to take it up more, maybe some reporting on what the uptake rates are of our EAP programme, what the uptake, number of conversations that MHF and mental health first aiders have, that kind of thing. How much, to Claire Strong's point, how many people have done the training on spotting the signs, those kinds of things, maybe worth a broader discussion.
That sounds good to me. I'm personally interested in the neurodiversity in the workplace aspect. I think that's something that would be very good to cover from a selfish point of view. Councillor Cameron.
Thanks, Councillor Brown, for reminding us what's on the list. I couldn't see it, but I would be interested in the mental health, what you just raised as well, but also flexible working. I would be really interested in having it on that at a future meeting, but not necessarily the next one.
And Louis.
I just wanted to say, I think, any topics covering inclusion, as a member of the inclusion group, I would always try and encourage others to discuss inclusion topics, especially as well, because obviously I was a colleague that was approached for the inclusion audit we're going through at the moment. So, that might come up. I don't know when that's going to be released, but that might come up at by the time the next meeting comes around as well.
In that case, could I ask, if the inclusion audit comes to the next meeting, could we have the neurodiversity with that? If not, knock it back to when the inclusion audit comes through. I think definitely the consensus is to have the mental health one at the next one, please. And flexible working, I think we definitely need to get in the future as well. So let's see what we can fit when. Okay. Any other business, which I know isn't on there, but I think we should offer anyway? No. In that case, I bring this meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for coming along and getting involved.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.